Hello. Can everybody hear me? No? Yeah. Daisy, can you hear me? Okay. Oh my gosh, there's like important people in here. I'm like super nervous. I'm going to go on camera once I'm finished filing my nails. So, the reason we're here today is because of an autopsy report. And I've not said anything until I had the opportunity to actually get the entire document like in my hands, which I finally did. And I spent some time reviewing it myself, and it's just really incomplete. I've said it before, incomplete. From a medical standpoint, if I'm just looking at it, what's bothering me is that if I didn't know anything about this story at all, and I was presented with this autopsy report, it does not paint a full picture of, for me, of a drowning. Um, or even the state like of her body or the scene. Um, so I figured I wanted to talk about this, and yes, it's very empty. Uh, and I wanted to talk about this, but a part of the problem is it's written in such a way that um, it sounds like it was thoroughly looked into if you don't really know. Um, and the fact is that instead of adding all of the things that were noticed, Sarah, I'm glad you have so many questions because I want to answer whatever I can. Um, so they comment on a lot of things, but instead of putting, if you noticed, how many things were actually written in it that were abnormal? She had no cuts. She had no bruises. She had nothing wrong on the inside. She took no medicines. They didn't, she had no dental problems. Um, it was all written very much like, it's fine. We're fine. She's fine. Everything's fine. Everything's good. You know, um, that's what's bothering me is it was filled full of fluff. And my brain, I always did say that when this came out, well, first of all, I always said that I think that with the way that this has gone, that they were going to have to say that it was an accident because they've messed up so terribly that they don't have evidence to say this was a crime. So, apart from that, I have also always said that if it came back that she was in an accident, I was more than willing to accept that if the explanation makes sense. This autopsy report ain't it. So that's why we're still here. Now, if I'm missing pages and something, more detailed is coming out, which I very seriously doubt, this is a real problem for me. Yeah, no mention, it's not even just no mention of water in the lungs. It's no mention of any other parts of the body or things that you would see minus the water. So we're not seeing anything having closed up. We're not seeing that reflex reaction, because our bodies are so, like, they don't even need us. Like, our bodies are so smart. They heal themselves. Okay. Our bodies are so smart. It has numerous um things to prevent bad shit from happening to you. that it does on its own as a reflex. You don't even have to think about it. Your brain does it. Okay. One of those things is if there's air trying to get, or if there's water trying to get into your lungs and it's not supposed to be going there, things will close up to stop that from happening. So that's one of my other issues. Her brain is another one of my issues. Her stomach is another one of my issues. So, it's not just like, oh, there's no water in her lungs. However, I went back to when Barbara Butcher was talking about this. Okay. And I have the clip. I'll play it or not play it. I'm not sure. I don't know the rules of YouTube, and I didn't read the terms of service. So I don't know what's going to get me in trouble and whatever else. And I'd rather this not get removed. But basically, she said, everyone was concerned about water being in her lungs. And the consensus for everyone was that if she doesn't have water in her lungs, then she died before she went in the water. And if she did, then she must have drowned. Maybe she did just get into an accident. And Barbara Butcher said, well, she's been in the water for 2 weeks. So regardless of anything, there's going to be water in her lungs and in her stomach. And that makes sense to me because your mouth would probably still be a tiny bit open. Your nostrils are open. You have orifices in your body that water will get into. So how did she not have an ounce of water anywhere? Yeah, maybe she wasn't submerged for 2 weeks, but what if she was submerged for a week? What would stop water from getting into her lungs via her nose, getting into her stomach via her mouth? Because even if she was deceased prior to going into the water, that water would still be in her lungs and her stomach. So it has to be some other something. And I will tell you, just like everything else with this case, these conveniently placed situations where it's like, oh, that would be really bad. Oh, but something happened. And so now we can't do it, or we can't see it, so for instance, we had been talking about how to find out particular things via vitreous humor, the jelly in your eyes. It just so happens that she's recovered and I guess has no, it literally it does not make sense. Every part of her that would help tell what happened to her was compromised in some way. And so my thinking was, and what the title says, is maybe what's stopping some of us is emotional thinking. And it gets that way because we know everything, right? It's a culmination of multiple weeks of nonsense that we're applying to this autopsy report. So the idea is go through it with no name, as if you were just someone handed you an autopsy report and said, is the conclusion that you draw from this that this person drowned. And I don't know any medical professional who would look at that autopsy and not say, "Where's the rest? Something's missing. What about this? And what about that?" You know, it's really sad to me, and it doesn't even start at the autopsy. And you all know this. It starts way back, but let's pretend we don't know anything about the 2 weeks before that. Let's just pretend. Let's pretend we're starting at the day of recovery, and we're reading that very first report of the sheriff's deputy who showed up at the lake and wrote his assessment of everything that was going on. The fact that he took no photos, the fact that he did not have his eyes on her body in its natural and final resting position in the water is shocking to me. I cannot understand. You know, I've said it a million times. It feels like you would have to know exactly what to do everything wrong. What is that saying? Like even a squirrel gets a nut sometimes, even a dog gets a bone sometimes. The fact that every single thing that you're responsible for doing is fucked just is astonishing. It's absolutely astonishing. So, let me plug in my headphones here. Hopefully, you guys can still hear me. Why did it do that to me? It doesn't want me to it doesn't want me to have my headphones. Not cool. Okay. So, what I was saying was, can you hear me now? Okay, good. They did say that it was an abduction at first. But again, we're back in this convenience thing, right? So that was the most convenient explanation because it drew the attention away from the party, away from the location that everybody was at. She could be across the border by now. Um they need to shut down the borders. And then she was found, and conveniently for the first time, those same people are saying that it's an accident, which again, maybe it was, but not per this report that I'm looking at. Absolutely not. So, anyway, what I was going to say was, or started to say, I did say, but you guys didn't hear me. So, NMS Labs are the ones who did the toxicology. And I went on their website today to see kind of just some more about their testing, specifically this testing, specifically what things are tested for. And I have to say, they listed a lot of things on the report, but there are tons more. Like, we're talking a list of 125 minimum. There's maybe 25 here, maybe 30. I'm being generous for what's been tested for. And we know that it's been tested for because it is the analysis summary and the reporting limits. So basically what they're saying is these are all the things that we tested for. And it has to be there has to be this amount of traceable drug or medication in her body for the test to give us a positive. So we're not saying that it's not there. It's just not potent enough for us to say that it's positive. So with that in mind, we're going in here and we're doing a toxicology. We don't know what happened. The base test will test for 125 different drugs. We're talking poisons, regular medications, vitamins, stuff you get from in surgeries, sedation, date rape drugs, designer drugs. And we went in and we said, let's check these 30 and send them off. What? Why? It's free, quite literally. And they can do it on the samples that you've already provided. What would possess a person to go through everything that they test for and choose something that's literally as revealing as a P test that like you take at a doctor's office or for your probation officer? If you're trying to figure out if someone harmed someone, especially in a situation where you have a bunch of people that are strangers and she was drinking something and you don't know what could have possibly been in whatever it was that she was drinking. What if there was antifreeze in one of her drinks? We don't know because we didn't look. Why wouldn't we look? It's logical to me with these people. If I said, you know what? Somebody said they drank everything that she drank. And she's alive. So couldn't have been poison. No need to test. Mm. So, going through this toxicology report, the only things that she tested positive for, like confirmed positive, is ethanol and delta 9 THC. Now, that reporting limit for the THC is very small. So, to me, she could have smoked when she was with Kate. Maybe creme brulee was pot this entire time, and you guys were right. Or maybe she did it the day before when she was in Reno. It doesn't say to me that she was so high on pot and smoked it right before she, on her way home as she was pulling away from the party, and that's why she crashed. And the ethanol, as they wrote in their summary, could have been partially or entirely due to decomposition. So, you can think whatever you want to. Me looking at this in my own perspective, with my own knowledge and with my own thoughts, I do not care about that ethanol and the pot. Katie Bug. Yeah, so yeah, of course. But how would we know? I mean, pot could be laced with anything. My mother. So a long, long time ago, I was much younger. My mother smoked pot that was laced with something, and like was so she was like, and the guy told me only to take one hit of it, and I thought he was just he was just exaggerating. Like, we get it. You have the best stuff ever. So she didn't listen, and she like couldn't move. Like, was laying on the bed and literally couldn't move. So, of course. But I don't know that. And I don't have any way to prove it. And neither do the police, because they've done the absolute bare minimum. They collected no blood. They collected no vitreous humor. They collected no urine. I don't figure they collected any of her brain, because it looks like they knew they should have, but then was like, shit, we didn't do that. Run the little whiteout tape over top of it. Maybe they won't notice. But regardless of anything, okay, this this autopsy report does not say she died of anything besides drowning. So what's put in here should reflect that. It should reflect a drowning. And the fact that it doesn't is it's very concerning, because as I was looking through it, we didn't even put a time of death. The Emmy, knowing what he knows based off of her investigation. So what they would do is they would do the autopsy, then they would look at everything from the investigation, and that would help them determine the manner. sometimes the cause. Why why did he then just go to a detective and say, "Do you all suspect foul play?" And of course, they get a resounding, "Mm-mm." So he says, "Okay, well, you all found her in the lake. She must have drowned. Let's put it on here." That's insane to me. So, yeah, Sammy did it. So, okay, I'm glad that you said this. This here. Okay. We've talked about this. We've talked about chain of custody. We've talked about no fruit of the forbidden tree. Okay. If this would have come back any differently and said that foul play was suspected or that there was some type of, here's the thing, and this is what's funny to me. I want you all to listen and hear me for a second. In just a second. Hold on. Okay. Just because, and I'm not implying anything, we're talking about English and we're talking about this autopsy report and the death certificate. Just because they put the manner or the cause of death as drowning and the manner of death as an accident does not mean that there is not some type of um I want to say foul play, but I also don't want you to misunderstand me. Um Again, we didn't check for poison. Let's just say that she drank something that had poison, not fentanyl, not any of that stuff. Let's just say she drank something that had poison in it. And as she was pulling away, this poison kicked in and off she goes. On the outside and not checking for poison, of course, it would look and be reasonable to say that it was an accident and that perhaps she drowned. But I'm sorry, once you started cutting into her lungs and you know, looking at her ears and at her brain and her stomach, and you see nothing else that suggests that she drowned. I don't know how you could reasonably draw this conclusion. She did. However, and I'm just saying, if I didn't want anybody to think that she had been poisoned, I would also like if my husband died 'cause I fed him pie that I poisoned, I would absolutely say, I don't know. We were sitting here eating pie. I was eating it off of his plate. And then they'd be like, oh, well, shit. I mean, she's alive. So it couldn't have been that. Right. So I don't know. I think this was I think this was just poorly done. I am not at all surprised by this in the sense that this is what I expected of them. However, what I am surprised about is that they would put out a autopsy report for the world to read and think that nobody reading it was going to have any type of medical background at all to not look at this and be like, where? So, as I said, we're going through here and there is no time of death. So there's like a calculation that they can do based off of how much decomposition, how long she was supposedly there, to try to figure out an estimated time that she would have died. We didn't even get that. We didn't even get, let's ask this again. We're calling it an accident. We have multiple different reports in here. So it's not just the autopsy findings. Where's the CHP stuff? Where in here do we make mention of the fact that an accident investigation was performed and it was determined that she did this, this, and this, and went into the car this fast, and that there was no sign that, she had sped up, or just whatever. I don't know. I don't know about accidents. I do know about medical stuff, but I don't know about accidents. But I would include that in my report. This is why I think it was an accident. Whiteout, yeah, you can't use whiteout on a legal document, but I mean, in the grand scheme of everything that's gone on here, I don't think we're really worried about it. Would you be if you had no accountability? So I've put in FOIA requests for, well, 2, CHP and Placer County. Is it Placer or Placer? I literally don't care. Them. I put it into them. Because, and I'm just telling everybody, just so you are aware, that all of the information prior to Nevada County. So when we request these, Placer, it's Placer. See, I feel like I've always said that, but I feel like I've been corrected. So when we requested these, we requested them from Nevada County. So they don't have anything from when she was missing. So all of the searches, all of the everyone they spoke with, people that they called, what they did in their investigation is at Placer County. And this here, I've seen this, which was the reason why I wanted to get my own hands on an actual document. If it's fake, it's faked by the Nevada County Sheriff's Office, because the copy that I have was sent to me via email, and it had my attached request with it from the Sheriff's Office. And I haven't compared the both of them, but I believe it's the same thing that, let's say, Plunder was scrolling through. So if it's faked or altered in some way, it's not from any of us. No, Nevada County doesn't have a missing persons report. It never did. She was reported missing in Placer County. So basically, like they said, I want to say in the press conference, or maybe it was in a message to me. It wasn't a message to me. Placer County said that we literally don't have anything to do with any of this because we were handling her missing persons investigation. So the minute that we found out that she was in the water in Nevada County, we closed her missing person case, and that's it. We have no open cases for her whatsoever. So if you want to know what happened all the way up to the point that she was found, you'd have to get it from Placer County because Nevada County didn't have an open case for her until this. So essentially what I'm saying is the very first report that we were given was from Deputy Jason Mackey, and it was 8/21/2022 at 6:58 p.m. And that is when their case opened. Everything prior to that is with Nevada or Placer. Mm-hmm. That name I just mentioned has as well. Be a quick Google search. Uh, if you're talking about the Deputy Jason Mackey, no. No, that's Captain Sam Brown, who was not present at the autopsy. And he was in charge of like search and rescue. But he also happens to be the one who called. So during the autopsy, a female detective looked at Kiely's face that was not recognizable and identified it as her. It makes no mention of taking DNA, her teeth. There was, as far as I see, there is nothing scientific about the way that she was identified. But still yet, they, I assume, for whatever reason, let Sam Brown know that she had been positively identified. So then he called somebody else and had that somebody else call her parents to tell them that. So so I'll be honest. So what sort of big deal would be the reason so many people are covering this up? I don't even know that it is a cover up. I think it's what we've all been able to see, which was a botched investigation. And I think it would be an absolute complete nightmare if this had ended up any other way between cause and manner of death. Because now here we are. They're going to say, you have this, and this on the body. Like, you have to give me an update. Like, I need to see like the files and the like, who are you thinking? And this is what might have happened. And they'd have to say, we were doing whatever we were doing, but we don't have anything that supports that. Someone from there made a comment about we thought she was going to be in trouble with her family, so we figured she'd just run away to Reno for the weekend. No. Nope. She was at the bottom of a lake. Right under supposedly 200 people. After or before, she parked right next to somebody who doesn't want to talk about it. He parked next to her car to go to sleep. Which let's just talk about that for a second. So, if they have a statement by a witness person, like someone that was at the party, filled out a witness statement with them, and their statement stated that they parked next to her car after the party and went to sleep. It doesn't seem like a whole lot of something until here we are trying to determine her time of death. And we have fire cameras that suggest that that's her going in at 12:33. And if somebody said they parked next to her at 4 o'clock in the morning, the math don't math on that one. But it's just not being looked into. It's very sad. So anyway, apart from this stuff, we're talking about the autopsy itself. One thing that was interesting to me, we did briefly touch on it, was the fact that the sheriff deputy that went there said that no positive identification could be made due to the decomposition present on the face. I've seen people say, what about her tattoos? But she was supposed to have been fully clothed. He would have had to disturb her body more to go look for that, if that makes sense. However, why not just look for that big scar on her wrist? That seems like something that would have been easy for, I mean, one way. Well, we got to plug this in before we lose internet. Hold on. Okay, we should be safe. So I just saw where someone said that it was a preliminary report. I would be curious, I would be interested in talking about why we would think that, because if it was a preliminary report and they weren't finished, it's not something that would have been available to us to request, because it still would have been an open investigation. Yeah, I mean, it is signed off on, so. But like it was touched on last night, you know, what they would do is provide the autopsy report. And if we're thinking that there's parts to this that is missing, like they didn't and can't just delete, multiple sentences or paragraphs and then send it off and only keep like the actual report for them. This is it's an official document. That's why they have redactions. They go in and those big black boxes so that you know that there's something there that was redacted because you don't have the right for whatever reason. They usually list it and tell you what the reason is why it was redacted. There is no redactions in any of this at all. None. So if it was done, it's in here. What was done is in here. Whatever's not in here is gone. It wasn't done. So the very first thing, obviously, working from the out in, is her clothes. She was wearing the bodysuit like we all knew. Why do I have to do this if I'm saying, if I'm looking at the report and it is not redacted? It is a fact. The report is not redacted. She's wearing a bodysuit and other things, and the pants and the belt. The sneakers aren't the right color. And one is off of her foot. Apart from that, the clothes are in a normal position. So my question, and this is just what I'm thinking as I'm reading this, is if she fell in a hole, you're right. You're right. The matching left sock was inside the loose left sneaker, which is weird. Common sense. If you want to have some common sense, you can stay here and talk. But if you're here to just like argue, I don't see the point. Why are you wasting your time? It is a free country. We can literally sit here and talk. You can't stop us. Doesn't mean we're obsessed. Of course, we have trolls in chat. I already expected them. That must be very, very sad and time consuming for you. I'll turn my camera on in a minute. That way you can actually look at me too while you do it. So yeah, so the sock is off too. So if it was just the shoe, I'm thinking, okay, maybe in an effort to get, in an effort from front seat to the hatch, maybe she lost a shoe. That's not hard to believe. But the sock, though, not the sock. And as for the clothes, she was supposedly falling down drunk. She fell in a hole. She was at a party. She got into a car accident and she drowned. And there are fish and other things in the water. And through all of that, her clothes are not torn. or frayed or have a little hole from from an animal. That's weird. Um, we don't know if the car was damaged because they include nothing about the car accident in here at all. Just that it picks up at the point where she was just in the car in the lake. That's it. This sums all of it up. When you go in and they're talking about her skin, just in general, she had no scratches. Like, these are things that they would be marking. Like, they would be documenting regardless of like where the things came from. Like, it could be a tiny scratch that she got, like whatever it is that they are noticing needs to go in this report. So if it's not here, it didn't happen. They didn't see it. She has no scratches. She has no bruises. She has no tiny bite marks from fish. Just that she's decomposed. That's all. And that's supposed to just, it pops up again in very convenient portions of the autopsy. For instance, her fingernails are gone. So if they're gone, then we can't check them for someone else's DNA. All 10? Okay. Moving along. There was no head trauma. There was no, the craziest, just as I'm looking through this, the craziest thing is that like that shoe off her foot is like the only thing that was out of place. Besides the decomposition, her shoe being off was the only thing. Even her hair. Like, I don't want to get, I don't want to get so I don't want to get graphic with regards to her appearance. But if we're talking just about her body speaking to this physician who is used to going in and looking at this with no idea who she is, what her history is, if she has any medical problems, the point is to go in and figure all of that out. So for anybody that wasn't here earlier, I was letting everybody know that I had gone to Duty Ron's not old video, but the one that he did right when she was found with Barbara Butcher. And in anticipation of the autopsy, she was basically trying to tell everybody what to expect, how it could be performed, albeit difficult, but possible, and what level of education, experience, things like that it would take in order to do this, because it's not an easy autopsy. And she said the issue everyone was having, well, not the issue, but the conclusion that most came to was that if she had drowned in the water and died there, that she would have water in her lungs. You all remember this. We went on for weeks about this. Everyone was like, we'll see if she has water in her lungs, or if she doesn't have water in her lungs, then she was dead before she got there. We went on and on about it until Barbara was like, no. But she was in the water for 2 weeks. Regardless of anything, she's going to have water in her lungs and her stomach. It's going to be everywhere because it's water. And we have holes in our bodies, and it will seep in. So then we were like, oh shit. So it's going to be harder to tell then. She's going to, it's not as cut and dry as water or no water. But what's interesting to me is that conveniently, people that were saying if she has no water in her lungs, that means she was dead before she got to the water, are now saying it was an accident. She drowned. But you said that if there was no water in her lungs, yes, she would be waterlogged. It's water. Our bodies are made up of water, mostly water. So this is how you drowned, okay? Asphyxia, that is what finally takes your life. You stop breathing. But there's nothing that mentions asphyxia at all in this autopsy. She didn't suffocate. There is no asphyxia. Her her everything, her lungs, her throat, everything is open. So yes, I agree with that. When you drown, there is asphyxia. So why isn't it in the autopsy? The larynx, trachea, and bronchi are open and normally formed. There is no apparent airway obstruction. Her pulmonary arteries appear normally developed and open throughout. That isn't indicative of someone who stopped breathing. Have some common sense. Everybody wants to be right. And no one has anything to learn. And the only person that suffers, because here's the truth about it. Whatever you say about me in my chat today, or write about me on Twitter, I'm going to go to bed and I'm going to be just fine. The only person that's suffering and suffered is Kiely. And the only person that's miserable is you. So we're going to move on. Yeah. But that's one of the points that we needed to make, was that had she drowned, Part of that is she quit breathing, and our bodies will show you that we've stopped breathing. We don't just stop sucking in air, okay? It makes changes to our bodies. Is it out of sync? Hold on. Dang it! I was saying about how cute it was that you said that, and you're right, and that's funny, and it was an accident. Good grief. Um, Now I'm, like, sweating. I should have sound now, right? Oh, look at my halo. I know, Michelle, you are exactly who I thought of whenever she said I was muted. I feel like that happens multiple times in your life. But anyway, now I feel like my cheeks are hot now. That burns me up because here's the thing is that you're literally making my point. We agree. We literally agree. So I don't get it. Why? I just don't get it. We agree. Mm. So something interesting that I had read today also is that your intestines is also a place that will have water. I won't talk about it too much because, I mean, I guess it makes sense that if it would go in your belly, then it would also eventually, it would seep into your intestines as well. But I actually was like watching an autopsy earlier, and it was um, really interesting. But this person in this autopsy says that the intestines, the appendix, the colon, that they're discolored and mushy, and there was bloating from decomposition, but that they were otherwise unremarkable. So no water there either. Her stomach was open, meaning the natural reflex reaction that your body has to protect you didn't happen when she was drowning. So her body's automatic effort to stop the water from getting in her stomach and her lungs. Usually it makes you like throw up. Okay. That's how your body protects you. It's still open to everything, including water. So why isn't it there? Gag reflex, yes. That's so you don't say, I want to gag right now. Otherwise, no one would like ever choke. It's your body. Your body is so smart. Listen, if you had any idea like what the fact that you're, and I don't even want to go there because I could talk about medical stuff all the time, but think about how powerful your body is that it literally heals itself. You get a boo-boo and you put a Band-Aid on it and you're like, oh, this will make it all better. But like your body then like grows new cells to protect your blood and your tissues. That can backfire on us too, obviously. But The point, my long-winded point of this was our body has things that we can't stop in order to protect us. One of those things would be to shut everything up to protect it from all the water coming in, and it didn't do that. And the only thing that needs to be happening for that to happen, for it to kick in and protect you, is your heart needs to be beating. That's literally all. Yeah, before this becomes a medical show, because I'm telling you, I could go on and on. We'll stick to Kylie for this one, but anyone that wants to talk that kind, your body really is amazing. Someone said I'm muted, but only one person. This. Your brain. Was something wrong with her brain? We don't know, other than it had severe decomposition. They cut it open, decomposition. She didn't have a hemorrhage, so she didn't bang her head. That spot that we saw on her, um, like most of the top of her windshield, but some of like the roof of the car, it wasn't from her. If brain matter was tested or kept, it's not. It's not in here. So I'm looking at materials collected. So materials for toxicology, which we already know was the liver tissue. No blood, no urine. So when they're talking about the ethanol, they're not talking about the blood alcohol content. They don't know the blood alcohol content because we did not test any blood. So what I find interesting about that is that we didn't test her blood. And this is a question for Barbara Butcher, which is supposed to go on duty Ron as soon as she's back from California. And I was like, everybody's waiting for that because I know about medical stuff, but I don't perform autopsies. So in terms of decomposition, what they can and cannot do, I have a general idea, but I'd rather hear from someone that actually knows and has done them. So in the listing of materials that were collected, one of the materials for histology, it says sections of the major organs are saved as stock tissue. However, if you go up to where they mark what they have taken, what specimens they have taken, like to keep in case further testing is needed, they only choose liver. And it's so liver and then toxicology and stock tissue are visibly checked. So I get that there's like something there, but if it was purposeful and they did take it, then I think it would be checked. But regardless, they did not take blood, urine, vitreous humor, anything from the gastric system, no bile, no muscle, no lungs, no spleen, no kidney. I guess, and again, I don't know, and it's something I would ask Barbara, but I guess if you're, so they take all of this like out. And so you're already halfway there. I don't know why you would, I guess just my brain saying if I'm gonna if I'm gonna take it out and then it's gonna be medical waste after that. I'm gonna keep a little bit of a piece of everything, right? So I guess I'm just confused. I mean, I get that there was decomposition, but I would like to ask Barbara, like, surely it's not possible. So they examined her lungs. So her lungs were present enough to have gotten a sample, right? I mean, or muscle. She had to have muscle somewhere to be able to take a sample to keep just in case. Who knows? Like 30 years from now, they might be, you just don't know. Like I would be taking a little bit of everything just to be sure. Yeah, I can show you the report. So, but not all of it. And I feel like it's not necessary. Um, I can send it to you. I literally don't, I mean, I don't care to share, or I can tell you how to fill out a request for yourself. They answer fairly quickly and they'll just email it back to you. Um, they're not as, they're very willingly handing out this document. So it's not like, you won't be waiting weeks and weeks and weeks. You don't have to be really particular. You just fill out the request. There you go. 18-page reports there on Google Drive. Perfect. Um, so, yeah, I mean, the main thing I wanted to get out was everything that I just said. And I had sent Duty Ron my like list of observations as I was reading it when I finally did get my hands on it. And Ed hit on quite a few of them. But I'm going to read this to you guys, and then if anybody wants to come up here and talk with me, I can't like guarantee that I can answer every question, but we can talk about what is and isn't. Like we've gone over the toxicology, right? So the only things that she tested positive for was ethanol. Oh, that's what I wanted to tell you guys. So I was reading on the NMS labs, the ones who did the toxicology. This is what they say regarding this toxicology report. And it's important note, and it is for all motor vehicle accidents. So we're told that's what this is. And they put to improve the interpretation of blood alcohol concentration results to exclude the possibility of contamination. Positive blood ethanol results in motor vehicle accident fatalities should be verified by analysis on a secondary specimen, notably vitreous humor, if it's supplied to the lab. Potential sources of contamination in motor vehicle accidents may include physical, external contamination, and inhalation of fluids from the engine compartment that contain ethanol, or from internal contamination from rupture of a section of the individual's gastrointestinal tract, which she did not have. They said it was, well, they said some of it was decomposed, but for the most part, it was normal. They didn't say it had exploded, so we can, I guess, rule that out. Or laceration of the liver, which they don't note here either. But I got to thinking about that. And if someone can tell me, so Inhalation of fluids. So, like, which fluids would come up as ethanol? So, like, if she left her car running, this, yes, vitreous humor, vitreous fluid is the jelly in your eye. It's actually really good for a lot of things. I personally didn't know about until Barbara said it about them um, using it like in situations like this where the decomposition is so bad that that was how they would test for alcohol specifically. But there's a lot of information in your vitreous humor. Gasoline. Yeah. So, okay. So if she got into an accident and fluids like leaked out like in the water around her and that seeped in, would that affect the ethanol levels? Sorry. And also, so we test for carbon monoxide through blood. We did not test blood here. So what if she parked her car? Like, what if she did park her car to go to sleep and everyone's thought was maybe she did that and she forgot to put it. We don't know what gear it was in because we don't know anything about the accident they're saying she got into. But let's say that she left it in neutral and was like spinning because of the pot, I guess, the creme brulee. And she did drift into the water, or let's say she was parked for multiple hours and carbon monoxide got in the car. Yes, we know ethanol is alcohol, but I literally just read something that says it could be caused by other things besides just decomposition. So if her gas tank were like leaking, do you all think that could have some effect on the ethanol? It's small. It's a small amount. I would think if she was surrounded by some type of liquid from the car. I just found it very interesting because I hadn't heard anybody talk about that, but that specifically was on the NMS Labs website, in particular referencing um, motor vehicle accidents, and if you're going to send in for toxicology for it. Yeah, this is true. Well, and oil and everything else. And at one point, someone had said that grandpa, I know the someone, but I'm just saying, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but they said that grandpa said he works on her car and that it was likely leaking fluids. So I do wonder about that too, is was there no type of fluid that came up to the top? Let's see. I don't remember reading that, but nope. There's a very limited number of things that they've tested for. They tested for 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 14, 18 things. And as I said, if you go on the NMS website, I would never sit here and list everything, but they have um, a list of at least 125 things that come standard in this test. So like you can either check everything for the tissue toxicology for this specific test, or you can go through and you can, pick which ones. They generally have that sheet that's got like 3 other pieces of paper behind it, and you just go and you either mark all or you mark the ones you want tested for. So, this 18 out of I don't know why we wouldn't choose just all of them, especially if we didn't know what was wrong, what happened to her. Because that's what I was thinking was like, what about poison? Like where are we looking for poison? Mm, Hmm. I don't know that she was drinking. They specifically said postmortem toxic, and this is in the autopsy findings. So at the end, they'll put everything that was like positive from what they found. So if there was um, a, oh, this is about to answer all of our questions. Okay. So if they were to find anything that was abnormal, that's what they put here. So the fact that she has like the wrist stuff, all of that is in here. And there are only 4 things that they found abnormal on this autopsy. And this is what they used to determine the cause of death. Okay. Maybe you know what? I can show you this page. Let's see. Okay. So can you guys even see this? Like at all? It looks so tiny. Can you read it? Yes, they did say that she was falling in holes, but she didn't have anything on her knees or any scratches or anything. A bit closer. You know what? Why don't I just make this? What about that? That's better. I don't know if y'all are talking to each other or me. Someone tell me if you can read this. Perfect. Okay, good. All right. So, everything that they find that is positive or abnormal is going to come up here under autopsy findings, and they will list them. And it basically is these are all the things that we found that brought us to this conclusion. Okay. So, number 1, this is going to answer everything. Found in a submerged vehicle, which was recovered from an inverted upside down position in the lake. Postmortem changes consistent with prolonged water submersion and moderate postmortem position. Basically, she found That's what this is. The second is of significant injury. There was no gunshot wounds, um, or knife wounds, or why am I breaking up? Maybe because I was blocking those weird bots. I just blocked 2 of them. So, no external or internal injuries that they could find. The third one is the postmortem toxicology on just the liver tissue, and it was positive for ethanol, and even them themselves said possibly all or part from decomposition. And to be honest, and not that it makes any difference, it really doesn't. So the only thing that we would even be concerned about at this point would be the ethanol and the THC. Like nicotine, she didn't like smoke a cigarette and that got her high and she wrecked because she had nicotine. So the fact that those are like presumed positives and it's being included here, like you can take the whole report for what it is, but it doesn't, there's no amounts. So, and also like caffeine and stuff is not what would have played a role in her getting into an accident would have been the ethanol and the THC. So, and then the final one, another positive, another abnormal thing is radiographic scan, just one, showing orthopedic hardware. And she just has a plate in her left arm. So even here, they say the reason that they are saying that the cause of death is drowning is simply because her vehicle was found in the lake and her body appeared to have been in the lake. And they couldn't find anything else. But here's the thing. They basically said that it was so decomposed they couldn't. Everything that would have said something couldn't be determined because they were blocked by decomposition. And then, so now we're just simply the only thing that we're bringing into question at that point is like Barbara Butcher was saying is how skilled the ME is that's doing it, because it is a difficult autopsy. So what happened here is that then they said, okay, we found her in the water. She must have drowned. But let's go to the police and let's ask them what they think based on their investigation, which is normal. That's not the Truckee way. They're supposed to work together. So they'd say, I mean, they admittedly said it's in the reports, that he went to the detective and said, "Do you think that there's any foul play here?" No indication of foul play. I mean, but then it says regarding the criminal investigation. So, simply put, he said, the only thing I could determine was that she drowned. Is there anything in your investigation that you can prove and that suggests that she didn't just drown in the water? And the detective said no. But again, my issue with it, I have it, Michelle. Hmm. Um, I wonder why they didn't put that in there though. But put her whole name in there. And well, I get he didn't put his whole name in there either, so um but my issue is the fact that we don't have, it's not just like the decomposition was so bad that we weren't able to tell, let's say, that her lungs were open. They specifically say that her lungs are open. So the problem is that that's not indicative of a drowning. So I just don't understand how that would be the conclusion. But if you look at that last page that we did first, the one that lists the 4 reasons why the cause of death was listed as drowning, um, it's basically just that that's where she was found, was in the water. Sounds like the lungs shrank. So here's the thing with, oops, there goes my glasses. With her lungs, well, with anybody's lungs, anybody that drowns lungs, um, they'll be closed. Our friend mentioned asphyxia. What the hell? Asphyxia earlier. It would be visible. Um, there's just none of that. There's just none of that. It's not like we're just talking about water. We are talking about we are talking about this. We are talking about this and this. The only thing was in her stomach was a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of peas or beans. What about the stuff she drank that night? Let's look. Let's see. Um, wait, you don't say. The answer is yes, they do. They fill and get bigger. And actually, um, and this is apart from like the trauma and things closing off, they overexpand, and you have to, I mean, it makes logical sense when you think about what drowning is, which is not being able to breathe. I have picked apart all those huge paragraphs. The answers are not there. Please find one spot on the autopsy report. I don't need to research it. I mean, I need to research some of it, but in general, I'm not an idiot and I work in the medical field. I'm not Googling every single word that I'm finding in the autopsy because I already understand it. If you find me somewhere in that autopsy that shows signs of what happens to a body that is drowning, I would love to see. I'm here to tell you that you're not going to find it. And on top of that, if you didn't feel like reading all the big words and all those big paragraphs, all you'd have to do is scroll down to the bottom here where it lists no abnormalities in her body. None. None. Her cause of death is drowning because she was found in a submerged vehicle upside down in a lake. That's it. I don't know why they won't release the one picture that they have of Kiely in that hoodie. I mean, right. But she didn't have it on, though. Oh, yeah. Sorry. So sorry. I got off track. So we were here. This is the normal weight of lungs. Okay. 1,000 grams. So we're not taking into account like being submerged in water for a very long time. Okay. So this is just normal. Like you right now, this is average. The autopsy says her lungs weigh 100 grams and 110 grams. So either that is a typo or, and I'm going to add it, I'm going to write it right now to add to the list of what we'll ask Barbara if decomposition would take away that much weight of a lung. or maybe we'll even just say, if you were to go into this autopsy, if you were to go into this autopsy, what would you expect her lungs to weigh? That's a better question, right? Instead of just giving it to her first. Because she might say 100 grams, and then I'd be like, oh, well, okay. So we'll we'll add that. There's many, many, many. I have many medical questions for her. And like I said, that's because I know about the body. I know about what happens in various scenarios as a body is dying, but I do not know what effects that would have, or what effects decomposition would have on these things. So, like, maybe 100 grams is normal. It just seems like almost impossible if it was all present. It just seems so minuscule. But I would defer that to Barbara, who knows what she's talking about. Yes, it would have been, you don't just inhale it, you swallow it too. And her stomach was open, but there was not any water. Her lungs were open, but there wasn't any water. Her throat was open, which is interesting. Her bronchi are open, so that reflex reaction to protect you that your brain and your body have, they work together to do so, for some reason didn't happen. So the threat of water, the threat of water, your body and your brain communicate, and they say, oh no, water doesn't belong here. Close it up, shut everything down. It would still get in, and it would have already gotten in order to trigger that, but we don't see that at all. So, and admittedly, because again, we go plumb to the bottom, this is all they found. It says nothing about drowning at all. It just says that the decomposition, the postmortem changes, and the fact that she was found at the bottom of a lake in her vehicle is the only reason that they say that she drowned, period. It's like really not even a debate anymore. Yeah, I don't. No, I don't. I do not know. I don't know if that's what the normal progression would be, that it would shrivel to like a raisin compared to what it was. I will have to ask Barbara. I hope she wants to talk about it soon. I don't think she's read it yet. All right. Does anybody want to come up and talk to me? Anybody that wants to actually just come up and actually speak to me. If I don't know you, you'll have to show me who you are. You don't have to come on camera though. How long have we? It's already been an hour and 44 minutes. Yeah, I agree with this eyewitness. And they were so Duty Ron and Ed were talking about that, like, that it's that it's like terrible and to not have it and blah blah. But like the fact of the matter is that if they don't know, it's still open. It's still like being investigated, and kind of from where we're at right now is like we've said that she's drowned and we've said that it was an accident. And so I don't know how successful it would be to come back from that and say we changed our mind. Like I would have to guess. I can ask for clarification, but I would guess that like it would have to be something incredibly significant to change this. Wouldn't you figure? But I think that's important for us. You know, it's not incomplete in the sense that there were that they found injuries to her that they didn't include because they put specifically that there was none. Which again, like I said, I'm curious, and I would like to know from Barbara that how it's possible to have no type of um, trauma to your body. So none evident, none recorded, Jade. So again, unfortunately, we're back in this. It's not written, so the I don't know. I don't know. Um, yes, I will drop the link, Quick Creek Squad. Um, I really I was hopeful that the autopsy would explain it for me, like that there was something that it was going to show. Um, I started the stream out by saying that I have said from the very beginning that if she got into an accident and drowned, and there was an explanation, then I would accept that, an explanation that makes sense. It's still not, it still doesn't make any sense for me. Lupus, I saw you. You don't have to turn your camera back on. I'm going to add you in, okay? Hello.
Sloopy, we're so happy that you have your channel. Oh my
I'm so,
God. Everybody quit clapping hands in the chat. Yay!
I'm so glad you guys came.
Look,
I mean,
I
I was
have a
going to talk
few
to myself.
questions.
Yes.
No, you wouldn't let you talk to yourself. You there?
Yeah.
Am I echoing?
Oh, you have to close YouTube.
Um, can you kick me out to the back and then bring me back in?
Yes. What about now?
Better?
Yeah, I mean, you're not echoing to me.
Oh, okay. All right. I got a question for you. If
Mhm.
you look up the size of a toddler's liver, then that would, to me, be the size that Kylie's uh, lungs would be. So, if that be the case, you know how a lot of us think that she was put in there after law enforcement searched.
Mhm.
So that's where my question came. So if she was stashed somewhere before she was put in the car and then put in the water, in my opinion,
Mhm.
could she had decomposed and had Rick and Mortem and then was put in there? So would that make a difference in how much water was in her body? Because the
Because it's
size,
smaller.
because it's smaller. Yeah, it's way smaller.
Well, and she wouldn't have been breathing. So that was,
Exactly.
yeah, that was my whole, that was like I was trying to figure out earlier. And I'm like, okay, let's just throw this around a little bit. If what would be a logical reason why she wouldn't have any water seeping in from her mouth and her nose? Is there a logical conclusion that you would come to?
Because her body was stashed and wasn't put in there until after law enforcement checked.
But if her,
As she was dried out because maybe she was stashed in her car, in a hot car with the windows up.
mm,
So she basically, trigger warning, it dried everything out
mm,
before she was ever put into the water.
I wonder how long that would take.
That's why I come on panel. That's a good question you could ask on
Yeah, I'm
Ruby
like
Run.
writing it down like as we speak. And
Yeah,
I looked up what you said and for everybody so they know. So it says by age 2, when they're mostly considered a whole lung, the weight is approximately 170 grams.
okay. So what would be for a 17-year-old? Because she was fixing to turn 17. So look up what would be the weight of a 17-year-old.
Well, and I want to point out, and I we will do that, and I think that's a good idea. But what I want to point out is that by 70 gram, like a 2-year-old's lungs weigh 70 grams more than what hers did.
Exactly.
So let's put 17-year-old. Like, it's just going to give us the same thousand. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's still averaging the 1,000 grams.
Okay, so we got a so-so answer there. So our next question would be, if she was sat into a hot car for a few days before she was put in there, would the absorbing of the body of water, would it be less since she did not have any water in her lungs? How do we call that dry drowning? And how do we call that drowning if you have no water in your lungs?
So we need to find out A, how long it would take to dry out that far.
Right?
B,
In a hot
yes.
car. We're just going to say that she was in a hot car.
We can even say under the most extreme circumstances, what's the quickest that a person's lungs would dry completely out? To
There you
is it
go.
even
Perfect.
possible? Is it possible to even dry out and then weigh 100? That might not even be possible.
Right, because if Rita Morgan has a play in it, then It would tell us yes or no. I would think. I mean, I'm not real sure in that part, but I would think it would.
Hmm. Yeah, we're gonna have to ask that. Those are really good questions. I hadn't really I guess I guess I
Well,
just
I give props to another creator for that. She brought that up and was breaking it down, and I thought, "Oh my god, I never thought of that." And then I got to looking it up and I got to researching it, and I was like, wow, because you can, if you just wanted a basic kind of answer, but still ask, you could actually put that in and pull it up and it'll tell you what the days are. If a body's put, into a warm climate and then put in the water, what would be the difference? I don't know how you would Google it, but
well,
surely
and
it would give us some type of answer.
yeah, I feel like especially with, um, this kinda stuff, 'cause it was funny, I said to somebody earlier, I was like, "If you could Google everything, like, medical-wise, and it'd be accurate and correct, then, like, everyone would be doctors." So, as far as accuracy, I would rather get us an accurate answer right away, so like I said, I'm keeping a list of things. I will email them to her and see if I
Okay,
get
well,
a
I'm with
response, but she'll
you.
probably wait till she can review, the whole
Yeah,
thing.
I agree. I'm with you on that. And then my other one is Daniel, the biological father,
Mhm.
has been reaching out to smaller channels.
Really?
Yes, so look, I am here to beg anybody that sees him in a chat or knows him to come to Sleuthy. We will be here for him and help him. Even if he goes behind the scenes with you and don't even come, he don't even have to be on a live. Just come to you behind the scenes. You're a smart woman. That's why I follow you. And you're very critical when it comes to things of what is said and what is not said, and just let him know that he has a
Mhm.
big army behind him that would help him fight if that's what he wants. But yes, he is in smaller channels and he wants answers, and no, he is not happy with
Really?
what he's getting. No. And another thing, please, if you look, this is another thing that was brought to light too. If you look, it said that cause of death was drowning. And then if you go to the bottom of them 18 pages, it also says inconclusive. So which one is it? After they said dry drowning, I think it is the next page.
I'm
It's
looking
after it, then it says inconclusive. So which one is it?
I'm looking, let me see here. I'm gonna bring up Easy because she's been waiting.
Yeah, sure. I'll go
But
on pause while you
I'm gonna
do
share
that.
my
You just let me
screen.
know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have he doesn't have to, like, interview, we don't have to ask him any questions, I just would like to hear from him, I want to hear his voice, I wanna know what he's thinking, um, I wanna know about Kylie, and I just wanna know where he's at. I've been dying to hear from him, I know a lot of people have. Um, I had no idea he's been in chats. I have not seen him. Um,
Yes.
I'm gonna share screen. I'm gonna pull up this autopsy really quick just because. So, is this the part? I mean, so this is the end of the autopsy. So this is where they list all of the different things that they found in the autopsy. And like I said, they put drowning as her cause of death, but the only evidence to support that they found was that she was in a vehicle underwater. Does that make sense? Well, and the fact that they didn't see any gunshot wounds or her skull wasn't fractured and things like that. I haven't seen anything about dry drowning on here.
No, in other chats, people said, well, maybe it's dry drowning. But if it was
Oh,
dry drowning, it would be in there. What I'm saying is if you go down, um, I think it's the page after where it says that it was cause of death was drowning there. Then if you go down,
well, that's the
keep
last
going.
page.
Oh, well, somewhere it said inconclusive, so they're still saying inconclusive
Oh,
on.
I think I know. So if you
Okay,
go,
help
I
me.
think it's the first page actually. I think it's backwards. It's so if you go to where he showed up right here, this what you're talking about? Probably so. So,
Yeah, it could.
well, so the reason, so because everyone was saying it must still be pending, this year too, pending still. So this was written when he arrived at the lake. So at that moment, he didn't know this information. I don't know how he knew this information unless um there were cigarettes in the car. I
Oh,
still don't
right
know how
there
you would
where it
assume they
says,
were hers, but
right there where it says pending investigation.
yes.
Cause
So
of death. Still-
yeah, as of the 21st, when he
Mhm,
showed up on scene, it
mhm.
was pending investigation until the autopsy was complete.
Okay, and one more question, and then I'll drop.
Mhm.
Could you also ask her what day would they pronounce her death? Would it be the day that she come up missing and nobody ever seen her again? Or would it be the day that they pulled her out of the water? Which will answer a lot of questions of people in the chat as well.
The answer to that is that they can't pronounce her dead until they find her dead. So the minute that he saw her and confirmed that she was deceased,
Okay.
that is when they pronounce her dead. However, the autopsy should have given a rough estimate based on the body, based on the level of decomposition, based on the amount of time she was gone. There should be a general if if the post-mortem, so if the decomposition matched having been in the water for, whatever it was, 14 days, 16 days, like if it would have matched that and everything else they were looking at matched that, then it should have listed a approximate time and date of death from the autopsy, from the medical examiner, and
Okay.
it does not. And in fact, I think it just says 8/20/22, if I remember correctly. I can look.
Mimi.
Mm,
8:30. Uh-oh, it was right up there.
no, wait a minute. It's in. Oh, I think it's in the first page. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
8:21 at 8:30. Would that be it?
so this date of death is when he showed up at the scene.
Okay.
Well, it's still not. I'm trying to find the spot right here. Date of injury, which would be the day that she died.
Okay.
When she got into the accident, the date of her accident, the date of injury. The
Okay.
answer is August of 2022. So they're not even
And
saying
did
she
you
got into an accident on the 6th or the 5th.
Okay, and did you understand, they said that the tattoo was on the rib and
Yes.
then when they reported it, it was on the hip. Could
Yeah.
that be because of the skin? Because of the water that made it
like
do that?
slough down, like,
Yeah.
I don't think. I don't think
No.
so.
Okay.
I think they would have to I think so again, so this person, this doctor is going in and they're just writing what they observe. So, in theory, like, he doesn't know where we were told the tattoo is. So he's going in and he's saying, "I'm looking at the body. There's a tattoo located on such and such a hip," which is different. There's quite a gap between your hip and your like, where would all of that skin have gone?
That would be
Maybe
the
that's another
question.
question for
Yeah.
Barbara, but I feel like he would have corrected for that. Like, if she was missing skin, I don't know. It would have had to been I don't wanna be, like, too crazy and graphic, but I wondered about that too, especially because, um, Jagger said he put it there on her ribs, so
So
it
my
should be
last
there.
question is, does
Mhm.
this does this 18-page look kind of doctor to you, or and like we're missing pieces that should be there that shouldn't, that aren't there? I don't want to say Seuss, but it just, like Judy Ron and them said, this doesn't make sense. This really doesn't explain a lot, honestly.
So the pages that if I was to suggest that entire pages were missing, I would say the photos are not here, obviously. It but if photos were taken, they're not here. But as for the actual findings of the autopsy, the paragraphs, all the different systems and all the what they d so, no, I don't think that there's entire paragraphs that were removed from these. I think they weren't they weren't documented because they weren't checked. I don't think that there is additional information about her lungs, but I there are things missing in terms of where's the CHP reports, um, where are the photographs, where's any of the reports and documentation from Placer County. But the answer to that is that you have to fill out a separate request. This is the entirety of the case file at Nevada County. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense. Thank
Yeah.
you for having me.
Thank you for
I'll
coming.
drop down so somebody else
It's,
can come up, and I will be
oh,
looking
she's
for
had great
questions.
questions.
Yeah, we've like 3 or 4 we've put down for Barbara.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Hi,
Uh-huh.
Sleuthy. I'm
Hi.
Ezzy. This is the first time I ever come up on any panel. However, with in regards to this autopsy and who's performed it and stuff, I've gone back and done a lot of research in the sense to acknowledge that the people that perform this don't even have, for instance, enough of knowledge to have even performed this toxicology. And I mean, I had a friend whom I lost and drowned. And when he was found, it was about the same time as Kylie, and he was very swollen. And I mean, not to be very drastically descriptive, but as if fish were, nibbling and stuff.
Yes.
But even then, it's like with Kylie, none of this makes sense as far as a report. And I'm just wondering, as far as if we all can literally start a petition. I believe someone said that a petition had been started with a different channel
Mhm.
uh, in regards to sending this to the attorney general as well as to the medical board examiners, which, as far as filing a complaint, this is unacceptable. If you ask me, if this was my child, I would definitely be on top of it.
Yeah.
Um, Not to mention, even on the on the autopsy, it literally says that she doesn't even have a tattoo. Later on, you go and read, and then it mentions a tattoo. So too many people put their hands into this, and they didn't really do the research they needed to have done in the first place.
Yeah, I'll give them hell where they should, but as for the tattoo, so they wouldn't undress her at the scene. So because the ME is going to look at her clothes for tearing or things moved out of place or missing, or so if he didn't see it on her ribs, that makes sense. I would
Hmm.
because he would have had to take her shirt off, and if they would have did that, which is just funny to me because they disturbed everything else. Like,
Yes.
why not? Like, you've already done disturbed everything else and you've flipped her. It's amazing that she made it 2 flips
Oh my
and
Lord.
not a thing ripped and not a thing broke.
And just the fact of her not having, as far as the shoe and the sock, and not having her left side, that just is, and looking at everything that Sammy even brought up, it all just points back at she's apparently the last one that saw her. And I don't understand why she has not been, pinned down as far as questioned deeply. There is so much corruption by what I've read, and it's just unbelievably unbearable to even handle. My stomach turns just knowing how they've handled Kylie's case, and she does deserve justice. Even after what they've come up with, I don't know just how you said as far as them overturning, but they should be able to, I would imagine, being that all
Yeah.
of this.
I don't know. Like, I'm not sure how easy that would be. I feel like a defense attorney would be like, "You said it was an accident." Like, I feel like if they were to turn this, it would have to be something, like, incredibly significant, but I could be
Okay, well, let
wrong.
me tell you what I just read online, and I posted it on the post and sent it to Michelle Sutton in
Mhm.
regards to apparently the toxicologist that performed this is actually being versed by the United States on a different case, similar. I would imagine. I haven't fully read the whole, as far as what's going on, but it has to do with the toxicologist. So this is are very important factors, in my opinion, to bring up. I mean, how can they allow this type of a person to literally come forth and claim these things and not fully write the report as should be? I mean, even when my father passed, it was a very thorough um, autopsy, and it was very
Mhm.
specific on everything. You
Oh,
know,
I said that from the beginning when there was this whole argument about whether it could be, hidden from everyone, and I thought, I think we're confusing an announcement of cause and manner of death versus an autopsy report. And I said,
okay.
the parents can't stop the cause and manner of death from coming out, but they can stop requests being fulfilled for the autopsy report under very specific circumstances
Hmm.
because it is very invasive and intimate and um, detailed and thorough, usually.
Very, very much so. So this
Yes.
is, yeah, very much so. That's why, to me, this is very surprising. But just like you said, as far as them coming forth with it, I believe that the family, maybe even the father, would be able to get this and release it. If he literally wants to get a serious justice done for his daughter, I know I would. In my opinion, I would go full force, and especially with all of you all and all of us, sticking together with it, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
um and like I mentioned it as before, as far as the petition, the more of us that go forth, I feel that we need to make some changes here, because it is unacceptable with the way the whole case has been handled. I mean, it's just lies after lies. It's just unbearable. Oh my, unbearable to know that this girl was put through this, and she was a very intelligent young lady, still hadn't really even started her life, and all of a sudden, in a snap of a finger, taken away, and no one's being held accountable for it. And then this comes out, and it doesn't make any sense. It's just everything being swept under the rug.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, I would get it. I would accept it, but again, I there's no one that's going to show me apart from just the fact that her body was in the water. See, this was an opportunity where, not opportunity, but a situation where they would heavily rely on the investigation up until that point.
Exactly.
So if the investigation was botched, there's nothing that can be done because it's like we can't we either leave it fully open. She's already decomposed a
Mhm.
bunch.
Yeah.
We've already put 19,000 hours into this. Like, they would have to come to a conclusion rather quickly. And I
Which is
think,
very hard to believe, as far as 19,000 hours, considering that she was apparently there. You can actually see it from up at the top. There's several videos that show you. And then they did only allowed for the divers to go in 25 feet. Does that make any sense to you? You know?
it does if they were only looking like for a phone. Yeah, it does. Not a car, but a phone. But why were they only looking for a phone?
Exactly.
So
Exactly. That doesn't make any sense. It's nonsense.
yeah, and that I mean, that should be available. So you should be able to fill out a request that that case is closed.
So at this point, is it literally closed? I mean, everyone. I mean, they haven't even come forth as far as talking about the truck guy, the one that apparently went and assisted.
Yeah.
The full story is not fully out to be able to understand. And even then, even though some of it is out, none of it makes sense. It doesn't. Apples with apples. How to, as far as knowledge wise, when and you have studied and you acknowledge this is just not making any sense whatsoever. And AWP also did a great job. However, at this point, I'm wondering if they're going to release their video as well, due to the fact that they haven't even yet got the reward, which is unacceptable. Yet at the same time, with what is coming out right now, they just probably just want to leave it, to the side, rather than continue moving forward. As to, they even, to my knowledge, I feel like they too felt like it was suspicious, because it is suspicious.
I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about, and I want to answer this question really quickly because I did go back and it doesn't say anything about blood pooling in the hands or anything like that. Nowhere. So, um, which was a good point. So if she had been laying in the car for say a week or however long it took to, um,
Blood
dry
would come
out,
out.
like we were
Blood would come
talking,
out. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, it wouldn't be a thing. Because otherwise there would be blood pooling in whatever position she had been laying in. Um, and then think about this. So I'm thinking about how we just went back and we looked to see if there was a date of injury, and there's not. I wonder if, so to me, that says that it's still possible that Nick did see her the following day because we don't know what day she got into an accident. It could have been 3 days later.
I mean, how do you
So
figure then the car being inside?
you mean in that spot?
Well, I mean, you would imagine so, because wasn't she in Boca and then ended up in the Prosser reservoir?
What if it was a weekend, like, she was supposed to go camping the next
Hmm.
day, right?
Correct.
I don't think they said when or where, I mean, so it might not have been in the same place, but I don't know. I don't know,
I
but
was to
to
the
me, I feel like that leaves
understanding
it
that,
open to if they found out something that had happened multiple days later, since they didn't say that that's officially the day that you know what I mean?
yeah,
She didn't
wasn't it on the
technically die
weekend
until the
though?
21st.
Yeah. I mean, it all just, it's all botched, in my opinion. And it's something that I feel that we all need to come together, literally, and sign a petition, send it to the attorney general as well as to the medical board, as far as examination and complaints, in order to really pinpoint this. Other than that, they're going to keep doing it to other victims as well. And I would hate to be one of those, or any family, for it to occur to, just as it is occurring to Kylie. And she does need justice. I don't know how that's going to come to be, but everyone needs to be, make it aware.
I
Make.
agree with you, and I think it's important that they work together. So, like, I feel like one of my things is like with my ADHD, right? I can't just
Uh-huh.
do the therapy and I can't just take the medicine. Like, I've got to do both because otherwise, like, one's not fully as good as it can be without the other.
Correct. It goes hand in hand.
So the medical examiner needs the investigation. The investigation needs the medical examiner. They're only as good as the other one is. So like however thorough one's going to be is going to depend on how thorough the other one is. If the investigation was not thorough, how can the autopsy be thorough to the point where they're not knowing what they're even looking at and they don't have evidence to support, you know what I mean?
But that's the thing. They did get the evidence. It'd be a different story if they hadn't have found her. You know, it was right in front of them. And if they literally wanted to do their job correctly from the get go, they were hiding something from the get go. As far as not finding her, don't look there. They even told AWP that they had already searched there. Come to find out, they had, you know, they probably did, but obviously I don't know why they didn't find Kylie's vehicle as well as Kiely, rest her in peace, due to the fact that you can literally see it from up at the top from one of those drones. You can literally see her car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I was really hopeful that this autopsy was going to make sense. And Cotton Farmer,
Hmm.
if you have read any spot in the autopsy that answers these questions, please let me know where it is. If not, you don't need to keep telling people that the answers are there because we're not all idiots. People have read it.
Of course. Of course. I mean, not everyone may understand the terminology of it, but when you've been through a certain situation to know better and to have the knowledge, well, then it's more understandable to be able to see that a lot of these things don't make any sense.
Right. So I'm sitting here, and the whole purpose of this was for explanations like that. So you're not Googling every single word that
Hmm.
you see, and so that we could discuss it so that it makes a little bit more sense. And maybe it does for some and maybe it does for others, but you can't tell me that something's in a report that's not, right?
Exactly. You're
So
doing
it's
awesome. Yeah.
thank you. So it's not there. If it was there, I would tell you all. It wouldn't be so puzzling if it was there. But I leave it to, we're sitting here talking about what we can. We're writing a list of questions for someone who can answer the ones we can't.
Awesome. That I mean, I look forward as far as that's concerned. I mean, and hopefully, it's like you would think that media would hop right on top of it, but you already know how that goes
It's very interesting that they were so, for as much as they covered it, it just, they were like, it's an accident
from the get
and
go.
drown. Yeah.
Yeah, from the get go. Not even having, as far not even have found Kylie and her vehicle
Right.
whatsoever. Yeah, so it doesn't make sense, and I'd hate to live in a community like that. To be honest with you, it's terrifying to know how this a place, as far as Truckee goes and Prosser and all that. And I've done a lot. There's cases even against them that I've read about, and even towards the sheriff that also being of the mortuary, the coroner, as
Yeah.
well. Pretty much everything in that town.
I was gonna say there's people in these reports that have had cases against, even for like, so okay. So one of the people in here in these reports
Yeah.
um left particular things out of a warrant. So what ended up happening was they collected things that were not in the warrant and the
Mm.
case got dropped.
Oh my God. Exactly. Oh my gosh. I believe I read that as well, and it's
Yes.
just,
And he
oh
said he
my,
thought he sent the one with the changes.
come on now.
Yeah, and
you
I
know.
wanna, so this swamp donkey, you can't do it is a medical doctor. You can't perform an autopsy if you're not a doctor, a medical doctor.
Well, did you know that one? I'm not sure if it's a toxicologist or coroner. I don't want to give misinformation, but it is one of the ones in the report. I read about it to where this person was actually assisting a different uh, town as far as being helping the coroner, but was not the coroner. Of course, maybe did get certified. I don't know, but to what I read, didn't have the experience enough to be considered a toxicologist.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't look at I mean, I went on their website, like I said, to look up that specific test to see what all they test for,
Hmm.
um, and kind of how they run them. but I didn't look up the actual toxicologist that ran them. And
Well, did you know that basically this person that I'm referring to, so if you do go back and read about it, it's literally he kind of has to do with like a superintendent, kind of like an officer at a school. That's literally
really,
what I read. Oh yeah,
I'll have to look
it
because I was more looking at the deputy because I hadn't heard their names before, like the deputies and the
mhm.
detectives. They're the ones I was like, well, let's just Google and see.
Have you
But
Googled Woo?
oh Lord, yes.
Oh my gosh.
And the forensic pathologist. So Jade, Dr. Reber or Reiber, he
Mm-hmm.
is a forensic pathologist. And that before the report came out, I had sent an email to Nevada County
Mm-hmm.
to the sheriff's office to ask them if it was going to be a forensic pathologist or a hospital pathologist that was doing her autopsy.
Mm-hmm.
And Reber is the name that he gave me and said he was a forensic pathologist. So,
Mm-hmm.
and actually they send them to Placer County.
What does
So
that tell you?
it's so funny because they go back and forth, and then the other one's like, "We don't have nothing to do with this." Like you have to call so and so. Like so, Placer County got it, and they're like, "We're not answering any questions because this is now Nevada County's." But then Nevada County is sending her body back to Placer County
Exactly.
to go to this new facility, But as far as all that goes, it's not like this person was inexperienced in the sense that they've not been through medical school because legally they have to, or they
It just
can't
doesn't
perform
make sense that
autopsies.
they didn't specifically write down everything. I mean, even how they're supposed to go through the eyes,
Mhm.
the and so on and so forth. I mean, and they didn't even all they gathered was what was it, the liver? I
Yeah, the
mean,
tissue.
the
Yeah.
tissue. I mean, it just you would think that they gather from everything with what I've read, and there's been other pathologists that speak in reference to this, and normally they have to take samples of everything, and that doesn't seem to be the case here.
Well, and that's on our list to ask Barbara because if you notice, like they say that like they don't even put an eye color there. They don't put they. So I'm just wondering. So they had all of these different organs, and I would like to know from Barbara specifically if in that amount of time, if everything besides the tissue that they took would have decomposed to the point where they couldn't get it. Because I'm thinking not
Me
simply for the
neither.
fact simply for the fact that when she specifically was talking about this, she said since she's been in the water for 2 weeks, like we knew where she was at that point. She had been
Mm-hmm.
found, she was in the water. We knew that it was likely 2 whole weeks. And she said that since it had been that long, that they would have to get with a needle the vitreous. She called it fluid. I'm used to calling it humor. So the
Yeah.
jelly.
Yeah.
So why didn't we? Because that implies that she figured that that would be present for them to collect.
Oh, many things that needed. I mean, I've heard her before, and even then, you also have the people that can even go in deeper into the tissue and the bones, and I mean, they've come out with so many things as far as DNA is concerned. They didn't even check, as far as to my knowledge, her underneath her nails. Does she have any tissue there? And whose did it belong
They
to?
they did mention that and they said that they were gone. So whatever type of DNA from like a fight or some type of struggle would be
Oh,
gone.
does that make sense to you though, Liz?
No, not to me, but I'm going to ask Barbara because I don't know. Maybe it is typical of all 10 fingernails to gone.
No, that's a cover
I
up.
mean, I don't, it sounds like it would be ridiculous that like not one of them would be, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
maybe it's not like somebody knows more than me. And so I'm just going to ask her. But to me, it doesn't sound right. But, you
No,
know,
it doesn't sound right to me either. I'm sure many of us would agree with that.
again,
Mm,
it's like whatever would help is like, he's gone.
yeah, and then right immediately cremate her. I mean, I don't know. It just baffles me.
I
Um,
feel like so as a parent, like unless so I know some religions do want you to be like cremated within a certain amount of time, but I just feel like me until I like had an answer,
hmm
I would be like we should keep her
Correct.
just in case, just because we don't know what happened, you know?
Exactly. Get to the bottom of everything rather than just assume and just try to move on and know deep down in your heart that this is not. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and people are talking about the water. So like the problem with that is the water's not as cold as everyone was saying. And you can look
Oh,
at the
AWC P, didn't they say it was like 83 or
his
something?
yeah, he said his estimate like at the bottom where he got her from would be like 75 degrees. That is hot, and that's why Barbara said that that was not an ideal condition to then do an autopsy. She wasn't in cold water.
Exactly, because apparently she wasn't. I'm not sure because I didn't see her, but as far as being very fully decomposed, you know.
Oh, I
Um,
just looked. KD, you are on it. You are correct. You are right. It says one of the hands, it doesn't say which hand, also bears a single thumbnail. So we have one left, a thumb.
oh my gosh.
And so I'm confused. So on the external examination, in the report, maybe I should share my screen just so we know I'm not lying. So on the report, well, I shared the wrong one.
So she
It says
did have a
something about
thumbnail.
lividity. Yeah, but it says something about lividity. Hold on. All right. Where's that first one? Here we go. The body showed obvious signs of bloating, lividity, and decomposition, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it says. Bloating, lividity, and decomposition. Let's go to the
What?
autopsy.
Mm-hmm.
Because the autopsy says, right here, no lividity pattern is discernible. No remaining rigor mortis and no lividity pattern is discernible.
Does it not contradict to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, how did he see lividity and then and in the autopsy they didn't? Also, no insect activity, but wonder why. I mean, a fish isn't an insect.
No, it's
Wonder why
not.
it didn't say no fish or insect.
Exactly. Exactly. I do know that because with my friend, the fish do nibble, but not to the
Yes.
extent to the
Well, the
point
car
to
was
where,
full. It was full of fish.
yeah, yeah, they do come around. But even then, I mean, you'll have like little, kind of like if, like, I don't even want to say it, but just your skin is a little bit up, up and it's puffered up, but
Yeah.
you can still get an autopsy done from that, a thorough
Well,
autopsy.
I just feel, yeah, no, but I feel like those tiny wounds would be visible. I mean,
They are
this,
visible. Yeah, I've seen them on my friend. I was there at the mortuary, and
I've
I will
seen
say,
a lot of pictures, not of a loved one, but I have seen a lot of pictures, and it doesn't. I mean, it makes sense.
yes,
And
it
this is
does.
actually a great question. This is a great question. I don't know. You would assume they would have fell off in the back seat. Did they float out? I don't know. That's a really morbid question, but it's a very good one. I feel like
Yeah, very much. I mean,
they'd
it
have
just
to be
doesn't
somewhere.
exactly.
She did say the fish would nibble the skin. She absolutely did. So that's what I mean. I mean, she didn't give us very many like positive what you would seize, but the ones she did, we don't see anywhere.
And nothing documented either. Everything's
Right.
literally contradicting. If it's not one page, it's the other, contradicting to whatever they've written.
So eyewitness. So, and I understand that. So if there's no insect activity, wouldn't that imply that it was more recent? Like, wouldn't you get more insect activity the more
You
time
were
passes?
exactly. You would think so. It only makes sense. It- it's
And
the
there's
just
nothing here about pooling. So you would think, so if she's if her arms and legs are low,
all of that would have been, as far
in
as
someone that's
nibbling.
drowning, the blood
Uh,
would pool at the bottom. I know if she was like on land, there would be pooling in whatever position she was in, but um I wonder if that's the same. The other thing is that says the teeth are natural and in good condition. Like, why didn't they use that to identify her? You know?
Exactly. Not, they didn't even use that. Nothing whatsoever with what I've read. I mean, as far as all these questions you will bring up to Barbara.
Oh Lord, yes.
Yeah. And what about, I mean, what do you feel about, as far as like I was telling you earlier with the signing the petition and sending it to the medical examiners as well as the attorney general to have them really look further into this and how this case was literally mishandled, literally.
Sure, I agree with that. I mean, I feel so there's like checks and balances for a reason. We're
Hmm.
supposed to be able to go to them if there's something wrong, we should be able to go to them. So
All of this is wrong. I
it is, and whether they'll do anything or take it seriously or determine that it's something that they do need to look into, I don't know, but I don't think that it would hurt.
It's an eye opener to many other cases that are mishandled in that area. Or
Yeah. That's kind of why so that's kind of why I'm even still why I'm like wanting to understand this because it's not like this is the only time that this is ever going to pop back up. Like I don't know. I guess I just feel like if we're not learning, like what are we doing? Like why wouldn't
exactly.
you want to learn?
Hmm.
If we're talking about it and potentials and it keeps happening and we see it like
Wasn't there supposedly another person that had gone missing? And I mean, they never even really spoke about it.
a man, a
Yeah.
35-year-old guy. Yeah.
Did they ever find him?
No. And conspiracy realist, yeah, so I wanted to ask this before I got cut off last night was I was going to say, is it I don't know that they force next of kin to identify. I assumed that they would want that, but I don't know that they would in her state. I don't
Not
know that they would.
everyone.
Yeah,
They
okay. So
not everyone. If for instance, I was asked because of the way, as far as even how my father was found, um, and I was asked, they told me that it was best that I didn't view him because I probably couldn't handle it. So majority, it's really left up to the family if they really want to view, uh, and to be able to say yes, this is the person, this is not the person. In my
well,
case, I did. I wanted to make sure not to where I'd be left wondering, was that really my father? You know?
right, right.
And
And
yeah,
but like I would not fault because I would imagine that they would summarize what to expect and I would not be surprised if they would choose not to, most especially if her face was unrecognizable. Like, what would be the point? Like, I'm not going in and looking at my daughter.
yeah. And they are unrecognizable in some way, like with my friend. The only thing I could tell about him was his hair, literally, his hair.
I just want to know, okay, so they had hair that was left, they had
Hmm.
a fingernail, they had hair elsewhere, they had teeth that were all in place and perfectly healthy. Why is the only way that we identified this child is by a detective looking at her and visually making an identification of her.
It does not make sense.
How?
There's no, I mean, that shouldn't even be possible. You would think that there needed to be several people and that would sign off. This is whom, we found, and or bottom line, just get to the bottom of it and make sure. I mean, there's DNA and everything on
They
there.
had multiple ways to collect DNA. It's not
Exactly.
like she was nothing, there was nothing left. They had multiple ways to check her DNA to, like, double like, for as crazy as they were like, okay, so her vehicle was found at the bottom of the lake, right? And they're like the parents are like, "We don't wanna know until it's confirmed by law enforcement." And law enforcement was like, "We don't really wanna recognize it unless it's confirmed." But then you used visual identification? Do what? That could have been anybody.
Exactly. You use DNA. That's why we have all this technology and all these tests and examinations that can be done uh, rather than just assuming, and just with one person assuming that this is the person that they found is. I don't understand how this is even allowed.
I don't either.
I've never. Yeah.
That's why I wanna talk to someone who's literally been responsible for writing autopsy reports, because I
Hmm.
feel like that would be a good indicator of, like, "Barbara, would you ever put forth this like, would this be an acceptable job to you? Is this something you would feel good about for a family? Would you
I.
feel you were thorough enough?" You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
And maybe she'll say,
Exactly.
"Yeah." Who knows?
And I mean, maybe you can also ask her as far as who do you go to in regards to, I mean, I believe it is a medical board, but who else can we reach out to as far as this being unacceptable, and for those people to be held accountable for this, you know for this autopsy and others, I'm sure, and the toxicology and all these people. I mean, you want personally, I would want someone that truly uses their knowledge and that it truly is caring of and loves their job. If they don't love their job, well then what are they doing there in the first place?
I would have rather this taken way longer.
Same here, because normally it would. I feel that the only reason why they brought it out is the reason that the other case with the little boy, which is a horrible situation that still hasn't been found to my understanding.
Yeah.
However, I felt that they just threw it out here because a lot of us were sidetracked with the other, trying to find him, and see what ever happened to him with Quentin. And all of a sudden, everyone's trying to figure, what's going to happen with that case. So they just threw this on out here, thinking that we weren't going to immediately grasp onto the information that they put out. Because that same day they put everything out. I don't know if you recall. That same day they
Oh, yeah, the timing is pretty interesting. I mean, so you have this video that everyone's talking about, right? And they're like, "Oh my goodness, you see her drive clear into the water. It can't be anything but that, and it has to be her car, and she has to be driving." And it's at
you
this
can't
time.
tell.
Mhm.
You can't tell. If anything, if you acknowledge, didn't it supposedly stop there for a bit before you even went into the water? There was
Well,
other.
yeah, and here's the thing, if they reviewed that footage, like, when they took it down, if they thought that that was it, and it literally corroborates what they have put in this autopsy report, why wouldn't they have put that as the date and time of her injury?
Of course, and they've been having this video for quite a while. It seems like they
Mhm.
literally didn't want anyone to know about it. I mean, what are they hiding? I mean, what is really going on in that town is the question. They didn't even do an autopsy as far as um I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. They just, something's not right. Everything from this case is unacceptable, and a lot of it to me is also political, if you ask me, with what I've read.
It's just sad, and I just don't understand. I had it up. I don't even I had it at some point. First of all, I'll say I love Dr. Latina. Um, Second of all, someone said something about bones, and you're correct. I hadn't even thought of that. And she obviously had all her bones. So bone marrow
Exactly.
would
All her
contain
bones.
DNA. I don't know why they didn't collect something like that either. So, I mean, that's also a very good point. And Kathy Richardson, I don't know where you are. I was like looking for your thing. You can come up. Oh, there you are. You can come up
Okay.
if you want to talk.
It's been great being up on here, Sleuthie. I've literally been, as far as I've messaged you and stuff on Twitter, but this is the first time I literally come up on a panel. Sometimes because I get, I'm wanting to get my point across as to my thoughts, but sometimes I think about this is not the right time. But I figured I would come up and share my thoughts with you since I agree with a lot of the things that you're saying. I'm with you on everything,
Well, I
literally.
appreciate you. And even if you didn't, I still would love to have you up here.
Well, thank you for having me. I'll continue to listen and be on the chat. It's been great talking to you, but that way she can go ahead and share her thoughts as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I hope
Thank
you
you
come
for
back to the
having me.
next one if we have another one.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, y'all. So I'm going to add that too now. The bone marrow. That was a great point. Whoever said that, raise your hand. I forget. Well, I can go back and look. And I am putting down your all's names because I don't know, because I'm weird like that. And I think that someone should know that you come up with these great questions. Kathy, you don't want to come up just really super quick? If not, we can end. Tyler Feller is live right now. He wanted me to come over there. Yes, of course. Come on up. I don't know. We'll see. We're so happy you're here. I'm so grateful for you all. The questions, this is why I like having talks like this. All right, I see you. Do you want to be on camera or you want to turn it off? Thumbs up if you're okay to be added with your camera on. I don't think she can hear me. Can you hear me? Gosh, y'all, I don't want to add her if she doesn't want to be on camera. I can try one a week. I can probably swing that if I have internet. If I save my internet specifically for this, then I probably could. Oh, she left. Thank you, Eyewitness. Oh, that's a good point. So, Kathy, I don't know if you were here when we were talking about, so all but one thumbnail from both hands. Put my screen up. Why? Yeah, I agree with that too. Unsolved crimes. Your camera is on. Do you want your camera to be on? Give me a thumbs up if it's okay. I can't hear you. You're muted. Well, you're not muted, but like we can't hear you till you join. Good? Thumbs up. Can't see your finger. Okay, here she comes.
Mm.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
I didn't want to add you if I didn't know if you knew you were on camera.
Yeah, it's okay. I look a mess, but it's
No, you
fine.
don't.
Hi, Sloopy. You okay?
Yes, are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
What do you think? We have come up with some really good questions.
Well, I think like at the very beginning, you know, where there's no photographs. Um, in my opinion, I think they should have had photographs underwater, and then when she come out, when the car was flipped,
Hmm.
and then obviously more photographs in the morgue.
Yes.
Um, and for me, it feels like they don't have any from anywhere.
Well, they have AWPs, but
Yeah,
they're not police, you know? I mean, I would assume they would want their own photos.
yes,
I would want
yeah.
my
They would
own.
have had like someone come along and do forensics underwater sort of
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
Because also, I thought if she was tethered at all,
Mhm.
by the time they flipped the car, she would be in a totally different position.
Right.
And I was thinking, well, that's just not right either, because they've not got a genuine, like a genuine view. Like for me, I would have to have, if someone drew a picture, I have to have that a picture rather than from like from my thoughts, because I struggle with processing sometimes.
Right. Well, and instead of trying to make the picture in your head,
Yeah,
why wouldn't you just have it? So, for instance, I feel like I feel like the medical examiner would have it would have helped if they could have seen exactly what position she was in, what was around her, what
exactly.
kind of shit was around her, because not everybody's car is full of shit now, when I wrecked my very first car, which was a 1998 Dodge Caravan, and I hit a telephone pole going like 50 miles an hour, split it in half, flipped the car. I'm a girl, so all the shit like came out and fell on me. It looked like Kylie's was the same way. A boy's car probably would have been fine. But, what about all the shit that's there? That's the other point is no nothing to her body, but there was stuff flying everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah,
Everywhere. Yeah.
absolutely. And also, like, if when they flip the car, how much stuff come down onto her
Right.
and and done any damage. Um, when Barbara spoke about, oh gosh, I'm losing my train of thought. When
The lungs.
Barbara, she spoke about fish and how they
Mhm,
nibble at the skin,
mhm.
and she also said about plants, like how they affect the body, or
Ye
something like that. Do you remember that?
I don't,
Or the
but
growth of plants
oh, like
when inside the
moss, I
car?
guess. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I guess because she was contained in her vehicle. Like, I know one of the other things that can happen to drown bodies is if they're floating outside of, like, a vehicle, they could
Yeah,
hit rocks, they could hit anything, and that could damage where you'd have to determine whether it happened before or after they died. But
yeah,
she was in her car. But still yet, if she had a bunch of postmortem injuries from the stuff falling and the flipping and the window breaking and
yeah.
that would make sense, but to say she has no trauma to her body whatsoever, that doesn't make any sense to me.
It
And
surprises me, and I don't think that's even possible for her not to have anything. Um, the other thing was the bronchioles.
yes,
They don't explain anything about that in that report.
they're
Um,
open.
so sorry.
They're open. That's all it says. They're open,
Yeah,
meaning they've not closed off to keep water out of there.
and so to me, why isn't there water in there? Because after 2 weeks or so, it would, um, your stomach would fill with water at least. so that they could at least gauge how much was in there, and even into the lungs you would be able to, I would have thought that they measure in what's in the lungs to make it, um
Whether she did before or after.
yes,
By the
yeah,
amount. Yes, that's what she said. I have that in a clip because I was like, before I try to go on my memory, which is not the best, I'm gonna go
no,
look and just see
mine's
what she
not
said.
either.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm so glad she had this is here still because I'm gonna go and I'm gonna clip it out. And so I'm listening and I'm like, okay, okay. And she straight up said, there's going to be water in her lungs and her stomach no matter what. It's going to be
Yeah,
everywhere because if she was even if she was so everybody thought that if she was deceased before she went into the water that she wasn't breathing so water would not get in. And she said that is not correct. If she was in the water for 2 weeks, even if she was deceased prior to entering the water,
yeah,
her through her nose, as long as they were clear, through her nose and her mouth, water would get into her lungs and her stomach. It just wouldn't be in
yeah.
the amounts as if she was gulping it down, actively
That's what
drowning.
I heard as well. That's what
So
I
the fact that there's
remember.
none,
Pardon?
I mean, even your eyes, so I do know a lot about eyes. It can get so gross. Like if you think this stuff is like your eyes can get very gross, but they're very complex. But water can get in through there too. So
Yes.
you have these open, as long as they're open, water can get in. So I'm curious to ask her, first of all, because that really threw me. I was expecting water no matter what.
Yeah. And also I suppose into the ears. Um,
Yes.
Another thing that shocks me is that they didn't take anything from the brain. Um, like, just taking it from the liver and some skin doesn't seem, um it doesn't seem very good, because it's hardly like, if you say somebody wanted to go over the case again
Mhm.
and relook at the case, and she was buried, say for instance, as an example,
Yes.
um, she could be exhumed, and then obviously they could relook at the body. But now, because of the cremation, it 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 kind of changes the whole thing, because there's nothing much there to go on, if you know what I mean, other than,
Well, it
uh,
makes it
well,
impossible,
there
right?
is, but there
Like,
isn't.
so if she was buried, it would be
Uh-huh.
very difficult. It would involve a whole lot. There'd have to be like a really good reason to dig someone back up, but it could be done.
Yes.
But if you're cremated, then you are gone.
Then
So,
you've
like,
got no
whatever
chance.
they have is what they have. So you would think her parents are going to cremate her. I need to take every little bit of everything because I'm never going to have even a potential opportunity to do this again. And I just pulled up the autopsy report because I was curious. I will say I went there looking for the brain section, and I got sidetracked. But so illuminated mind, that is also a great point. When I got into my accident, you could see, like, it felt like I broke my shoulder, and I didn't. However, I did have issues dislocating it years down the road, and I think that's why. However, I had a huge bruise, and in fact, a seatbelt can kill you in an accident,
Yeah.
but it can
Yeah.
also save your life, but it can also damage all of your vital organs. So
Absolutely.
she had no markings. So, okay, so then I'm gonna assume she didn't have a seatbelt on. But so then when it flipped, why didn't she bang her head anywhere?
Yeah, so
This was
that
a great
takes us
point.
back to the brain. There's
Nope.
no knocks, no impact of any kind.
Nope.
No mechanism of injury, my husband said.
Nope.
To show that there's anything like that. And you would have thought there would have been some damage, even in respect of the fight. apparently she had.
Yeah.
With the boxing, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever they did out there. That was another thing.
Whatever they did out there.
The also the when it said about the nails and they took DNA from the thumbnail,
I'm so glad you said that.
I was thinking, why didn't they take them from any of the other nails? Because let's just say something happened and there was a struggle or something, you would
Have
and you would
skin.
defend yourself and you would use your nails, and the skin of any kind or any DNA would be under your other nails rather than your thumbnail.
I'm so glad you said that. However, that's actually where I got sidetracked in the autopsy. So we know she only had one fingernail, one thumbnail,
Yeah.
right? So do you think they took that test? Like, did they clip her thumbnail? I would love to, like, I don't know how to make a poll. I'm not going to get all, but like, do you think they took, since it
The
was the only one that was
thumbnail.
left? Yeah. Do you think they did?
Yes.
They
I
did not.
think they just took that and nothing else.
Nope.
And
They took head hair,
yeah.
other hair, other swabs and smears, and that's it. No fingernail.
So that was a big thing for me because I thought if she was defending herself
Me
or
too.
even if she was clambering, she would have had something under those nails rather than the thumbnail. The what was my other thought? What did I say, Jay? Sorry, my memory's really terrible.
No, you're doing just fine. I'm gonna
Because
look
I
for the
have so
answer to
many
this.
seizures, it it scrambles my brain.
I think you do better than like some of us.
Yeah, the other thing was the testing. No test for fentanyl, no tests for GHB.
So I'm less worried about, so it's not there, right? But my issue with that is that again, it is there. It is on that test. They do test for that in that test, along with blood pressure medications, cholesterol medications. There's like 125 different things that they test for. When someone put in the order,
Yeah.
the 18 that were tested for were specifically checked. So instead of saying, do all of these, it was do
Yeah.
this, do this, do this. That's what concerns me.
Yeah, to me, that's the same for me because I would have thought they would have run a battery of tests,
Mhm.
and what they've really done is just take. I wonder if they've just ordered the minimal amount of tests, rather than the maximum, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, and I'm going to answer this. I read this
What do
as
you think?
I'm going to share the oh, so many buttons. There's way too many buttons. It should be like I can't just share my
It's been so
screen. I
much
can do a
easier.
video file and a slide and an extra camera. Like, where am I going to have an extra camera?
Oh dear.
Share screen. I'm going to just show it because it does answer that. And I read it as though there were no toenails. But Kathy Richardson was there, or Kathy Richardson was not there. Please don't clip that out. Kathy Richardson said that, and she did make a good point when the skin of her hands started coming off, that it would have pulled
Fluffing?
nails off. So that makes sense. And I would assume the same would happen with the toes. Kathy, if I'm
Okay.
wrong, please tell me.
And that's a good. It's good that you brought that up actually about the toes.
Yeah, I
That's
was
something
looking
else I was
through.
coming to.
Toenails have also separated. So it does sound like both
Right.
in both feet. So it does sound like the same exact thing that Kathy was saying would happen with the hands is what happened here.
Okay.
You know what's weird though?
I thought,
Why didn't he put along with the fingernails? But then the paragraph above it says that there's a thumb. This right here, there is no visible trauma on the back. How? Logically, I can't imagine how she flipped twice. Her skin and her body was already very fragile,
yeah.
spongy. How does she have no post-mortem wounds from them flips?
Yeah, see, it doesn't make any sense, does it? At all. The other thing I was going to say is, the one shoe with the sock in the shoe
Yeah.
seems a little bit odd to me.
In my brain, I could make the one shoe make sense, but I don't understand the sock.
Yeah,
You
it's
take
like
off the sock.
if there was two shoes missing, and then I would understand, like, the water and maybe I don't know, the shoe come off.
Yeah.
But with one shoe on with the sock on and the other one obviously within the car with the sock inside the shoe, it just seems weird. It doesn't.
This is a great point. So many great points. This is why I like to talk, because look at this. Obviously, if the shoe and the sock was intact, then the toenails should be in the sock.
Yeah,
Could be sent for some
absolutely.
type of testing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't.
So
But maybe no. Nope. That wouldn't be with the FBI processing the vehicle because it was on her person when she went to the morgue. So I that's a very great point. I'm gonna have to add that too.
okay.
Yeah, that's a great point. I see it's like things like these where you're just kind of like, okay, but how and why? Like
Yeah,
for her not to, I'm
absolutely.
sorry, but I couldn't pay much attention when I was watching like Zav scroll and talk and the chat go because my brain doesn't work that way. And also, I'm like, I need to see the entire page, every page. I put it all
Yeah.
in good notes and I mark it up to death. And
I know. I
I did. I
noticed.
write notes all over it and I make several copies. So like, I'm like, I need to have it like in front of me, like on my big ass
Circulate.
iPad so I can really figure it out.
Yeah.
And, but one of the things that I noticed that stuck out to me before I had to get off because my brain doesn't work that way, was that there was no trauma, no scratches, no
Was
she
there?
was literally in a car accident, regardless of whether she was dead, alive, did it herself, somebody else did it, before she went in the water, after she went in the water, regardless of anything, she got into a car accident
Yeah.
and then was flipped back over, so she got into 2 car accidents.
Yeah. It's
Something ain't right
like
there.
I mean, the other thing is, if why would she have gone into the water with both windows down? She would have surely have heard the water. In my brain, I'm thinking that makes sense. And they said she knows the area really well. So I don't understand. To me, in my opinion, I wonder if someone drove the car in, came out of the window that was open. But I wonder if Kylie was deceased already in the back hatch. And then obviously in the, the kind of images where they were showing the cars going up and down, and there's two cars that stop together side by side, and it's like they're waiting for someone, or they're probably talking. But then I wonder if that's time for someone to get out and then reach the other car, in my opinion. I can't hear you.
I don't even want to. I'm glad that I was muted. That was God, okay? Because I was getting ready to explain that or what it might possibly be, but I'm not going to, because I don't want anybody to then use that as their,
Yeah.
I don't want to say alibi, but I don't
so
want them to use that to explain away their nonsense. So I'm not going to say
yeah.
it, because I do
So
think I do think we need to be careful. And so,
yeah.
I think to it. So how many times in a case, almost every case that I've had anything to do with, if there's anybody speaking from the case, if you start saying it, they start
Everyone
saying
would
it.
say it.
So
Yeah.
there's a missing girl, and we had a big Twitter space, okay? And we're like, why would she go out the window and not just down the steps and out the door? That doesn't make any sense. Why would she jump from the second floor as opposed to just walking down the steps and leaving? And
Yeah.
up until that point, we heard nothing about a dog. But somebody came on and said, does she have any animals? Perhaps she has a dog that would have alerted her parents if she was running away. And we were like, oh, okay, yeah, that would make sense. Then, like, they get on Nancy Grace and is like, the reason that she didn't go out the window, or the reason that she went out the window and not out the front door, is because we have two dogs that would have. And I thought, oh, okay, we need to watch like what we say, because
Yes,
we're
absolutely.
making stuff that makes no sense make sense, and then these people are just running with it. And so, and I
But
don't know
back
that all police departments are going to pick up on it either.
but back to the autopsy, I just feel that there's so much missing. I mean, I'm sure Barbara said about photographs and how important they were. Um, she said so much about what a body condition would be like underwater. But I mean, there's so many questions still unanswered, and it seems like this from the very beginning to even now. And I kind of thought in my head that we would get this answer at the end. It was an accident. Um, but it to me, it just seems like there's so much missing from the report
Right.
that could be there.
And not only missing, but
Not even.
I guess the things that are missing isn't as troubling to me as the things that are there that are reported as normal, and
Yeah.
shouldn't be. That's what's concerning me. And I did have Mark, had it up on here before about that they did say, Ed and Barbara both, I'm pretty sure, said that it would be difficult to see whatever kind of bruise, whatever kind of trauma, but it could be done. The problem is it would be more difficult to determine whether it happened before or after.
Yeah.
Um, and you would have to like look a little bit harder. But I feel like, again, I feel like you surround water in water sports. You have people drowning often, falling off of boats and getting into, they're like wakeboarding and they fall like, so this shouldn't be your first drowning autopsy.
No.
You
No.
should know what to look for. You should have
Absolutely not
specialized
in an area
team.
like that.
Right.
Um.
If someone in New York City can do an autopsy on, there's more limited places for people to drown, as opposed to there's a ton of water there and also a ton of tourists. And again, they have drownings all the time. It wasn't his first drowning autopsy, and he was like, "Holy shit, this is very hard.
They,
Looks
yeah,
good."
I understand what you mean. It's
Just
just
like
as
when they
much as
couldn't
a
find
mess.
her when they were missing. When she was missing, I'm like, "What do they don't AWP doesn't have, like, better equipment, and they shouldn't be better at searching the land that you live on. Like, you live here. You should be better at searching for a person in the woods than you are searching for a person,
And
I don't know.
especially in the
L
river.
Right.
Yeah. And for them to find her in such little time, as compared to what was it, 19 different agencies
Mhm.
that were there. I mean, it just madness. Um,
Mhm.
I'm trying to think what else I thought of in the report. The ethanol.
Mhm.
You know, it said the level was 88.
Mhm.
Um, well, surely some of that would be due to the decomposition of the body
So I'm gonna share
rather
again.
than alcohol.
Look here.
Um, so that was my opinion for that. And I didn't think it was very high.
Possibly all or part from decomposition. They don't say anything about alcohol. In her listed cause and manner of death, there is no alcohol toxicity.
No.
She didn't wreck and drown because she
Slippy,
was
isn't
drunk.
that because they didn't even test her blood level?
They did not. Well, they didn't take any blood.
Right. So
I
they can't
mean,
get a blood alcohol level if they didn't take blood.
Well, yes, but this is different. So I think so people are reading this. People are reading that 88 as like a point oh 0.08 maybe. I've been seeing that they're converting it into a blood alcohol level, though it's not. And were you here earlier when I said that I pulled up the lab testing and what they said about motor vehicle accidents and this ethanol?
I was, yes.
yeah.
Yeah, so they specifically say that like in motor vehicle accidents, and there's certain things that they want you to send to test, and it would be like double tested, because this ethanol, it can happen when like the fluids from the car leak and they're inhaled.
Yeah.
So it could have been that too. But like I said, if you're going off of this autopsy, they're basically explaining away the ethanol. Like they didn't say possibly all, or they didn't say like unclear whether from consumption or decomposition. But the fact is there's no alcohol in her belly, no
Exactly.
liquid at
And there's
all.
like, what was there, like peas or something?
These
Um,
were beans,
or beans, yeah. And I mean,
Apparently they can't tell the difference between peas or beans.
no
They're
creme
the same.
brulee. Where's the
Right.
creme brulee? I think
and
we
I
do have
mean,
that accounted for. Whoever came up with that, whoever said that first was probably right. I'm naive. I thought they had on like oven mitts
was
and were
there
making actual creme
anywhere?
brulee.
Because when Zav was looking the other day, um, she was putting the notes up and down the screen, so I couldn't focus properly,
Yeah.
and I'm like, keep the page still.
That's why
um,
I was like, I don't want to look at it or comment really until I've seen the entire thing, can read it by myself. I don't even do
did
well when someone else reads to me.
did it say there was a fracture to the nose
No, I don't.
anywhere?
I will
And I don't know
absolutely
if
double
it's because
check, but I don't remember that at all.
because I don't remember. I'm not sure if it's because the screen was going up and down and I wasn't connecting with the words, or whether it was.
She said something about a nose ring. It wasn't a fractured nose. It was
Oh,
something about a nose ring.
yeah.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, because that was really bothering me. Because I didn't get your DMs, Lucy. So where did you send it? Was it on Twitter?
Yeah.
I
I'll have to
didn't
go
get
back and
it.
look. Maybe I didn't. I will have
Um.
to.
I
Uh.
just have to say, I really feel like they went into trying to do this whole autopsy knowing they were going to say that it was an accident. And so it's literally written up like a toddler wrote it. And we're just all supposed to nod and smile and just agree that it is what it is. And now it's an accident. And there's just so much missing from this. I'm not currently in medical, but as an ex EMT, it's not adding up for me. And I don't know who would we go to try and like actually clarify this and make sure it's accurate. It's almost like the whole thing is corrupt and there's nothing any of us can do about it. It's frustrating.
Yeah, I think it is from everything that I know, it's has to be the Surgeon General or the whatever we've been talking about. The guy. I know I tagged him on Twitter. He ignored me, but it needs to go above them. But again, they're talking about a petition. Someone will have to send that to me. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, but I think it definitely needs looked at. My concern is that there is no way to do another autopsy. There is no way to gather samples of things and evidence and tissue and fluids and to like retest. Basically, someone would have to go in with what's written and say they either agree or disagree. But if it's being documented that there's no trauma to the body, there's no way to go back and look at that unless there are photos.
I mean, do you think that there's a possibility that it could be kind of re-looked at, and to go through the actual and analyze um, the medical things that they have written down, because maybe an outsider would look at it in a different way, because I think in general, like the other girl said on the panel, what's your name? Sorry.
PJ.
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 Like PJ said, I mean, I just feel that they could, if they could re-look at the case with fresh eyes, I wonder if they would see anything different, and they would see a lot of the missing things the um, within the paperwork that's there.
Yeah, they could. It's just that the problem is they can't then go back and fill in the blank.
And I
You know
don't
what I
think
mean?
they want to. It's almost like they just from the very beginning, I swear I said they were going to say it was an accident before they even found her, because it's almost like, okay, well, that's the area where people just drown and it's just what happens. And that's that. Even her mother doesn't seem to
Yeah.
care and is bothered by us that are looking into it more closely. It's just, I don't know. I've never seen anything like it.
No, not
I
either.
I don't I've never understood the case, and from day one I was suspicious. Um, I'm not always suspicious, but just from day one it didn't seem right. Um, and to me now, even more so with what's come back, I'm even less sure of